Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I did check out a video on Ready or Not before, so if you like to check that out, be sure to check out that video somewhere in my channel. It was very much enjoyable and I really appreciated the realism that I saw in that video. And thankfully I got permission from the content creator to check out his videos. So we have the next one up here, the most depressing level in Ready or Not, Kawaii Beach. I do know that this game is very much as if you're part of a SWAT team. So I'm looking forward to potentially hearing some of the 9/11 calls one day. I'm not really sure if it's going to be in this video, but I do know apparently this content creator has a few videos where the 9/11 calls are actually like shown and you can hear it. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And if you do have videos you'd like me to check out on Ready or Not lore and story stuff, then be sure to comment down below because I'm quite enjoying what I've seen so far. So I very much look forward to checking out this video. And I do have 3 videos, I believe, in the queue that I need to ask permission for before I react to them. So the more suggestions I have, the more likely I'll be able to release these videos faster for you guys. But in any case, let's enjoy this video. And of course, as always, make sure to support the original creator and video, which I will link down below. And if you do enjoy my reaction, then be sure to comment and subscribe and like my video, okay? Now let's get to this.
Ready or Not is quite familiar with tragedy. Whether it be a horrific event that mirrors our world's problems or something that genuinely just makes your stomach turn, Ready or Not has it. Something that isn't talked about as much in this game, though, are the more subtle examples of tragedy. For every mass shooting, there is a robbery gone wrong. For every terrorist attack, there is a rundown crack house. While the more controversial levels get all of the attention and praise, I feel that these smaller, more innocuous ones do a lot of the heavy lifting. In my personal opinion, I actually prefer these smaller maps over the larger, more extravagant ones, because most of the time they're self-contained. You don't need all of this additional context to make sense of.
I do have to say, I really can't get used to the first person, mostly because I have motion sickness. But I do appreciate that this content creator doesn't like just show first person, or else I would have to literally close my eyes. But I think what he says is very much understandable, because even for me, when I consume a story or enjoy a story, it feels a lot more vivid when the area of that the story is taking place is more self-contained, which helps the viewer, reader, or whatever media you're consuming imagine and immerse themselves in there. Not that there's anything wrong with like high stakes, super, dangerous, big areas. I'm sure there's a lot of fun with that. But for us in our lives, we don't exactly go around the entire city every day unless that's your job, then that makes sense. But for the most part, you're most likely maintaining your own routine and your own small world, basically. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's something comfortable, nostalgic, and security. It makes you feel very secure inside as you go about your day. But because we're so used to that small world, I feel like when a story is also set in a small world, so to speak, or self-contained as he said, then it feels more intimate, scarier in some ways when you think about it. Because what if in that small world of yours, just one step away is something that you see in this game, the self-contained, really small world type of thing. So I have a great appreciation for those self-contained stories, especially if they do it really well, execute it really well, then it can cause some level of anxiety and fear and tension inside of yourself. And your small world ends up feeling not so secure as much. Obviously, it's a game though, so a lot of people most likely are able to dissociate themselves from what they experience in the game and their real world. But sometimes things like horror movies where, there's haunted houses and murders or whatever in a campground, that can cause some people to feel really scared for the night before they sleep. And that's the kind of feeling I kind of feel like is the case with this game. Not that I have played it, since that'll depend on whether you guys agree with me or not. But that's another reason why I really do enjoy the whole self-contained stories, or the ones where it takes place in a small world, so to speak.
Situation. And when you do that as a developer, you make it a lot easier for players to understand and empathize with what you're saying. You make your experience feel more personal. Now, as I mentioned before, there is a lot of different tragedy in this game, but the most tragic level isn't a terrorist attack or a cult or even a school
There's
shooting.
a cult one.
It's at a small,
kind of interested in that one.
On the ends of the earth.
Oh.
Ends of
Also, before I continue, I do have a question. From what I understand, this game is a there's a single player mode and a multiplayer mode. Does the multiplayer mode also go through the story too together, or is it just the map that you're, I guess, playing together in that's the same, but there's no story? Or is it just the story is only for the single player mode? That was something I was a little confused about, because I did look it up quickly to kind of get a gist of the game, like what it was, but that part kind of confused me, and I didn't really want to spoil myself on anything, so I didn't really look too deep into it. So I'd love to know your explanation on what kind of game this is in particular, or at least the differences between those two modes.
The Earth is regarded by many as being one of the saddest levels in Ready or Not. We're initially told in our briefing that the home that we're raiding is that of what used to be an ordinary family. However, a grim twist of fate would send them all into a darkness that they've never experienced before. The family's mother, Hugh Nguyen, was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. To put it simply, she's dying. And this game being set in a fictional Los Angeles means that the family is currently experiencing the U.S. healthcare system. And dying here is, for lack of a better term, very expensive. The family's father is retired and too old to work, and the only gainful employment that we know of is that one of the boys is a mechanical engineer. But that's not enough. The medical bills have been piling up, and the family just isn't able to keep pace. And unable to procure enough money for their mother's treatment legally, the boys have decided to turn to more illicit means of income. The eldest, Andy, has been using his engineering knowledge to create illegal gun modifications. And the younger two, Tom and Vinny, have been organizing the sale and distribution of these modified weapons. It's really a shame when you think about it, because these three brilliant minds found more money in crime than they ever did in regular society. And this is all
that says a lot about society, doesn't it?
For their dying mother. No, regardless of how we feel about this situation, personally, what these boys are doing is very illegal. They're taking semi-automatic weapons and modifying them in a way that makes them fully automatic, which serves no purpose other than maximizing the potential loss of life. And with all of the mass shootings that we see in this game, I think it's safe to assume that some of the guns in those attacks, regardless of their intentions, were made by these boys. So we need to go in and stop them before they can make them for anyone else. When we arrive to the scene and walk around outside, we can see that trash buildup that we mentioned in the previous episode.
I remember that.
It appears that the garbage union is still on strike at this point in the game, and we can't help but wonder when this conflict will finally be resolved. Outside, we can also find a small gardening shed and the crumbled remnants of a pool overlooking the beach. When we finally make our way inside of the house, though, there really isn't anything noteworthy. After all, this isn't some creepy cult or human trafficking ring. This is the home of an ordinary family. On the walls, we can see some traditional art, as well as some old family photos. And the more we look around, the more we just start to feel sorry for these people. In the kitchen, we can see that the counter is overflowing with medical bills, all with the notice "past due" stamped on the front.
I feel a bit bittersweet, or I guess bitter, because it is true that probably in reality, people who take the right route, do everything correct, and go about their life as a normal person, well, but then if something happens, like medical issues, then all of that goes away. In some ways, it's very tragic. And I feel like medical bills is the one thing, at least if you're American, that really, really, really scares people. And honestly, I would be terrified too, because medical bills is, it's just, there's nothing we can do about it. And all we can do is keep paying for it. And what change can we make to a system that's already broken and not willing to change because of greed? Which is why it's even more sad in this case, because it's not like they wanted to go towards crime just to make money so that they can save their mom. It's because living well, living normally, and doing a regular life was just not enough, clearly. And having medical bills is like signing your own death sentence or ruining your family's lives in some ways, which is quite not something that it should be, but it unfortunately kind of is at this point in America. Even with insurance, that is expensive too, and even then, that's not enough, especially when it comes to certain types of illnesses and injuries and whatnot. I can see why he said that this was one of them, or at least the fandom said that it's the most, or it's the saddest, one of the saddest stages for this game, because it's very relatable. And that's the scary thing. Like, anyone can be in this position. Any of the players can be in this position in one random day. And it won't be convenient, but it is what it is. And it's either you pay it or you end up just dying or suffering even more. Wow, that's very depressing. But I guess let's keep going.
Certain areas of the home have also fallen into complete disrepair, as it seems that the family doesn't have the time nor funds necessary to maintain their property.
Well, yeah, they have to pay for their mom's bills. They're not going to have funds or time at that point. And that's the other thing. Like, if you're paying for a mortgage and, trying to own a home, then you have to spend money on maintenance, put your time and energy towards maintaining the home. And if you also have medical bills on top of that, oh boy, that's truly going to be really painful. Ugh. And then most likely this family probably took out loans to get this house too, unless they paid for it like a long time ago and had a decent amount of money, then maybe not. But most likely they also took out loans to, pay for this. And then so they not only have medical bills, but they also have, loans from buying a home, which does not help either. Ugh. Ah.
What hurts the most, though, is a voicemail that has been left on the answering machine.
Miss Newen, this is Alana Tran. You came into our station yesterday with your husband, and I'm calling to follow up if you have time for a visit today. I know you're unwell, so we're happy to meet someplace outside of your home for a quick chat. No lights, no sirens. We'll come in plain clothes. The two of you hinted at your boys doing something. I'm sure that if we can get on top of this and convince your boys to do the right thing, we could get a deal going that sees your sons doing minimal time. Vinny can probably get off with probation too. So, across the board, it's good news. We're here to help, but we need to act now. See you soon.
Now, this call insinuates that although the parents are understanding of their boys' actions, they still disapprove of them. They understand that there are very real consequences to what their sons are doing. The mother, who once again is dying of cancer, decides that she won't let her sickness lead to the downfall of her boys. which has got to be
Clearly.
just one of the worst pains that you could ever experience as a parent, right? You don't want to get your children
That's
in trouble
true.
with the law, but at the same time, you don't want this life to end up killing them, especially if they're doing all of this for you. But thanks to the mother's call and some further investigation, we end up obtaining 3 arrest warrants, one for each of her sons. As we continue forward though, we'll try our best to use less lethal force. I don't think this family needs any more heartbreak than they're already experiencing.
So
If we
did
make
you
our way
capture them?
upstairs, we'll find all 3 of the boys' bedrooms. One of the rooms is simply adorned in workout equipment, but the other 2 actually have some more crucial details that are worth mentioning. The first is what I imagine to be Vinny's room. On his desk sits a computer monitor and a 3D printer. The computer's web browser is opened up to a 3D printing site, specifically for gun parts. On this page, we can see the description of a part called an autosear, which holds the hammer in the cocked position while the bolt of the weapon is cycling, essentially transforming
okay.
a semi-automatic gun into one that is fully auto. So this is more than likely the modification that they've been adding onto these guns. And it's interesting to see that they've simply just been printing the parts off of the internet. Anyways though, if we can
I do have a question for those who actually handle guns and things like that. Do they just not sell fully automatic? Is it just always semi-automatic for like safety reasons? I would assume fully automatic is like only meant for like the military and police, perhaps. I'm just not entirely knowledgeable on that, so I am quite curious because obviously it's bad that they're selling guns and all of that stuff, but it seems like there's like a significant difference and level of danger obviously between the semi-automatic and fully automatic, but it makes it also sound like that fully automatic guns are just not on sale, which is why they're doing that. Yeah, please let me know if you have knowledge. I'm quite curious. I don't really handle guns, nor am I really like super interested in it, but just wanted like a little bit more knowledge on that so I can fully understand the depth of their crime, I suppose.
continue on over into Andy's bedroom, we can find several things of note. On one of his computer monitors is a casino website, and on a nearby table we can see a poker set and a strategy sheet for blackjack. Now, what I imagine is happening here is that the brothers have been laundering their money from their gun business through a local casino. For those of you who aren't familiar with this concept, allow me to explain. Whenever you make
Yes,
a lot
please
of
do.
money doing illegal activities, you can't just deposit it into your bank account. The IRS is very suspicious of large, unusual amounts of money coming out of nowhere. And if they find
Makes
out that this
sense.
money has been obtained illegally, then you go to jail. However, in this case, if you go and gamble this money at a casino and then walk away with your winnings, then suddenly that money doesn't seem as suspicious. It looks like casino winnings. And after all, if you have receipts and evidence to prove it, then why would anyone ever question that money's origin? They might lose some of this money at the casino, but everything that they can walk away with is good, clean profit. This information is further confirmed when we find a letter from the National Revenue Service, which notes discrepancies between the family's spending versus their stated income. This letter probably really freaked the boys out, so they quickly jumped to using the casino as a way to launder their money. Anyways though, if we make our way out of this room and to the left, we'll find the mom's room, which has been retrofitted into a sort of at-home hospital. It's obvious that the boys took great care in preparing this room for their mom. Everything that she might need is within arm's reach of her bed. Hell, they even moved the TV up closer just so she can see it more clearly. I know
That's
I've
so
mentioned it
sad.
at length here before, but I really love the human element in Ready or Not's environment. The devs always do a good job at making the world feel true to the situation. There are so many things in this
Oh,
game
boy.
that are super easy to
Too
glance
many
over.
first
but once
person.
you stop and think about them, it only helps to further build the experience. For example, in the bathroom next to the mother's room, we can find a chair in the shower.
Oh,
the
for the
mother has
mom.
become so weak from her treatments that she's unable to stand safely on the slick surface. I feel that every mission in Ready or Not has that one little detail that sticks out from the others. And for me, it was this. And while there are many better things that I could have empathized with in this level, the simple placement of a chair is what did it for me. Aside from all of this though, there's really only one other place that we need to clear at this point: the attic. Now, when we make our way up the stairs and into the attic, we're almost always met with gunfire from one of the brothers. It seems that at least one of them is always waiting for us upstairs. And once we look around, it makes sense, because this is the room where we'll find all of their weapon manufacturing equipment. And while I don't really have any clue on what I'm looking at here, it seems that this room plays a crucial role in the boys' process. However, once we report this and detain any other suspects, the mission comes to an end.
So we don't accidentally kill them, right? They
Ends
all
of
just
the
get
Earth is
arrested?
probably the most depressing level in Ready or Not. The game really does make you feel like you're the bad guy for arresting these people. And while we understand that their actions might have far-reaching consequences, we can't help but feel a little sorry for them. They found themselves in a situation that is truly a lose-lose. Either the boys sit back and watch their mother die before their eyes, or they turn to a life of crime just to afford a few more minutes with her. It's easy for us to point our finger and say that the boys did wrong, but I imagine that many of us, if placed in the same situation to afford care for someone that we truly loved and cared for, we might do the same. The tragedy of the mission only grows once you consider the repercussions of your involvement. If you try to resolve the situation peacefully, most if not all of the boys are going to be locked away for a long time. Federal weapons charges aren't necessarily huge, but when paired with money laundering and violently resisting arrest, it carries quite a hefty sentence. The mother isn't going to be able to receive the care that she needs to survive because her sons won't be here to provide for her, and she'll die without any of her sons by her side. And that's the good ending. If you take a less cautious
That's the
approach
good
to
ending.
this
I mean, that makes
operation
sense,
and
though.
you kill the sons, it's safe to assume that the same thing happens. Except this time, the mother dies with the knowledge that her call to police resulted in the death of her sons. She is inadvertently responsible for killing her boys. And if you say, hey, what if I just don't play the mission? Then nobody dies and there's no blood on my hands. But again, you're wrong. Because the weapons that these boys are manufacturing are directly
killing other
responsible
people.
for countless deaths around the city. Maybe even
Unfortunately.
responsible for the mass shootings that we see in this game. So regardless of your action or inaction, somebody somewhere.
I actually think the good ending is genuinely good. I mean, it sucks that the mom will most likely die because she won't be able to pay for the treatment, but if any of you guys are parents, you can let me know your thoughts. But I would feel that if a parent actually cared about her sons, and which is why she made the call in the first place, then she'd rather die than put more burden on her sons, but also to make sure that her sons are no longer making the wrong choices because of her. I think one of the things that people tend to forget is that just because someone is sick, it doesn't mean that they don't have a will of their own or that they are upset about their situation. I mean, they will be upset about their situation, of course. And the person who has to take care of them will have some level of, what is the word, caretaker fatigue. But I do wonder, did the sons ask their mother if she wanted to get all this treatment to a point where her sons would go for a life of crime? Because if they had asked her, I mean, obviously they did it secretly, so they obviously did not ask her. But sometimes I do wonder if her sons and their mom were able to have a talk before they did anything this drastic. I feel like the mom would have said to just let her spend her final days in peace with them, and so that she won't be a burden. Personally, if I was sick and I had kids, I would not want to live and make them spend so much money just because they want to spend more time with me. No, I would just prepare for my final days at that point. But that's just how I feel. But I do wonder how actual parents would feel if they were in the same situation and they had children who were willing to go for a life of crime. Maybe some would actually be okay with their children going into a life of crime just so that they can live, because I know a lot of people don't want to actually die, which makes sense, but does it not go against your moral code in that case? Do you not want your children to go towards the right path? In some ways, it's a lose-lose situation for the mother, but at least when she dies in the good ending, she can die knowing that she did the right thing, as in guiding her children towards the right path, even if it means they go to jail. But that's just how I feel. I would love to know your thoughts.
Is going to suffer. I think Ends of the Earth is probably one of the best examples of a quiet tragedy. It tells the story of a family who has been torn apart by a diagnosis, and the actions of the men, while horrific in their nature, have a sliver of innocence behind them. Oftentimes in this game, we'll find ourselves empathizing with the victims, but in this level, we find ourselves feeling sorry for the criminals as well. I'm really interested in hearing what you all think about this, though. Do you think that the boys deserve redemption, or are they nothing more than common crooks? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. As always, though, I hope you guys have been doing well. You know I love you. I'm out.
I very much enjoy this person's video editing style. I think it matches really well, first of all, with the game story and lore vibe, where it's very quiet. Like he said, it's a quiet case, and he very much presents it quietly too. And because it's quiet, you feel a sense of reality because of it. I think some people have, I suppose, a discomfort with silence. So that's why a lot of people tend to play songs, play videos as they're doing stuff, because silence typically means uncomfortable for them. Even when you're talking to others, you typically want to fill up the space of the quietness so that doesn't feel awkward, instead of embracing and enjoying the silence. The silence is what makes life feel a lot more real, because you're in that space right there and then with nothing else to distract you, just you and the silence and the room that you're in. And I very much feel like this content creator has done a very good job at utilizing the silence in order to bring about the vibe that this game gives. Now, I don't really know if the game itself doesn't have music in the background or whatever, so please do let me know if that's the case. But for now, the way that this content creator is showcasing the cases and explaining everything does give a very good layer of reality, a dosage of reality in the world of content, where a lot of videos tend to have a lot of music in the background, a lot of editing and all of that. But this person does a very good job at doing very clean edits. So it's not too much, but it's not too little, and it's just right in showcasing this game and the case that he's presenting. And I think he asked at the end, let me actually double check.
Things that we see and the actions
right here
of
at the end.
The victims. But in this level,
Oh yes, about the crooks, that's what it was. I was trying to remember. But for the crooks, I don't really see them as common crooks. I think everyone has some level of good and bad. And if you're put in a specific situation, then either that good side will appear or that bad side will appear. And it really depends on the person, I feel, regardless of how they were brought up. Because in some case studies, or at least in some cases, I believe it was I can't really remember the exact details, but there was this incident where regular people were asked to watch over these criminals, and without even being told, they started torturing those criminals. And these were ordinary people, so they weren't like super like trained people and all of that stuff. I don't really remember the exact case it was, but if that is something that can happen and normal people are exceeding levels of sadism and desire to torture and punish people, then it's hard to view people with the whole black and white where, oh, you're good, oh, you're evil in those cases, because typically something happens and circumstances push them into a life of crime, or they grew up in it and they have a very hard time breaking away from it. And in this case, they were unfortunately the type who were in the circumstances. It's unfortunate that they weren't able to get help anywhere else, most likely because they're an immigrant family. I assume they're like first gen, second gen. So it's less likely that they'll be able to get help from any of their relatives. And assuming that they're Vietnamese, considering their last name Nguyen, then I highly doubt, even if they had relatives, that they would be able to help pay for the medical bills at that point. Which is even more tragic, because when you think about it, these people most likely immigrated to America in the search for an American dream. But instead, what they got was death, a death sentence, and children going into crime. I don't think that's a very good representation of the American dream in that case. So it's very saddening when you think about the circumstances that they're in and realizing that the circumstances pushed them into the life of crime because they had no other choice, basically. I do wish we learned a little bit more about the dad's side of things, because we learned a lot from the hints about the mom, but not really anything about the dad except for the fact that he was with her when reporting about their sons and that he can't work, but that's pretty much it. It's very... I kind of wish we were able to get more details on that. By the way, this was a very good video to watch and I very much enjoyed it as always. And as I said before, if you enjoyed this video too, then make sure to go to the original and support him as much as possible. And if you enjoyed my reaction, then be sure to give it a like, comment down below, subscribe and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!